Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're welcome to Heart Clinic, and this is the first episode after the introductory video. And inshallah, we'll be looking at the first principle with which we can rectify our heart. But first, I have to tell you that this might be the longest video in this episode, or in this series rather, because we'll be looking at something that is very crucial. But every minute and every second of it is worth it. So stay tuned. We'll be right back, inshallah.
Join us on Mondays on our program tagged Heart Clinic as we journey through the purification and rectification of our heart across the borderline of our belief system. What are you waiting for? Check out our YouTube page at Dawah Hub and subscribe today.
So you're welcome back. If you have not subscribed yet, just smash the subscription button and then turn on the notification. Now let's go into the first principle. The first principle, Tawhid. Tawhid as the basis for soul purification. Indeed, Tawhid is the objective and the basis of which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought us into existence, both mankind and jinkind. Allah said, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created jinkind and the mankind except that they worship me. That is the basis. It is also the basis for the call of all messengers and prophets of Allah. Allah said in the Quran as well, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. That indeed we have sent from for all the nations, messengers that other people أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ, that they should worship Allah, وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ, and they should leave the false deities. Likewise, Tawhid is the first of that which is obligatory upon the person, for the person to enter into Islam. Alright, without your Shahada, without your Tawhid, you can never be a Muslim. Most importantly, for every caller, for everyone that says that he wants to bring people into the region of Allah, the first point of call is Tawhid. Like the Prophet ﷺ told Muadh bin Jabal, radiallahu anhu, when he sent him to Yemen, by saying, إِنَّكَ تَأْتِي قَوْمًا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ. Okay, you are going to meet the people Yemen, where I'm sending you to. You're going to meet people there, and those people that you're going to meet there, they are the Jews, okay, and the Christians. فَأَوَّلَ مَا تَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَيْهِ شَهَادَةِ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. The first thing that you're going to call them to, is شَهَادَةِ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا, the testimony that there is no deity worthy of worship besides Allah. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, فَإِنْهُمْ أَتَعُونَ لِذَلِكَ. Okay, if they follow you on that, that is after they might have understood that, فَعْلَمَهُمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ اِفْتَرَضَ عَلَيْهِمْ خَمْسُ الصَّلَوَاتِ. Then let them know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made obligatory upon them 5 daily salawat. Okay, so you can see the tartib, you can see the sequence. Alright, now the first thing that should be the point of call for every caller is shahadati an la ilaha illallah, which is Tawheed in Allahu Azza wa Jal. Now, how then can we link this with the purification of the heart? But first, before we go into that, let us understand what is meant by Tawheed. What is Tawheed itself? Okay, Tawheed comes from the root word wahada, okay, to single out, okay, one. For those of us that are conversant with madrasa, wahada yuwahidu Tawheed, alright? Now, it means ifradullah bil ibadah, okay, fi rububiyyatihi wa uluhiyyatihi wa asma'ihi wa sifatihi. Okay, that's it basically. Okay, to single out Allah in His lordship, in His worship, as well as in His beautiful names and attributes. Okay, that is just the summary of what is called a Tawheed, Tawheedullahi Azza wa Jal. Then we have to understand that acts of worship are not solid, they are not acceptable, they are not healthy once they are contaminated with anything other than Tawheed, which of course is the opposite of Tawheed, which is known as a shirk. Diddu Tawheed huwa shirk. Now, one has to bring Tawheed into all of these things that I mentioned earlier, which is ifradullahi bil ibadah, okay, fi rububiyyatihi, in His lordship, wa uluhiyyatihi, and His worship, wa asma'ihi wa sifatihi, alright, as well as in the belief system generally that we have to have in terms of relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, starting with the affirmation of the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. Alright, some scholars say that the first point of how Tawheed starts, okay, apart from rububiyyatihi wa uluhiyyatihi wa asma'i wa sifat, is the testimony of the wujudillah, okay, the affirmation of the existence of Allah Himself. Alright, from there, you now begin to know that okay, he does this. Okay, part of his lordship is that he's the only one that gives life, the only one that takes life. Sunrise and sunset, the alternate of the day and night. Okay, rainfall, harmattan, and what have you. Those are things which none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do. That is his lordship, all right? His lordship over us, all right? And a part of it is sustenance, all right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives sustenance. None other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives sustenance. Then the second one is Ifradullahi bil ibadah, that is worship for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You single out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only for worship. None other deserves the right of worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Scholars have said, okay, there's a particular principle which I want us to hold on to. They said that Tawhid al-Rububiyyah yastalzimu bi Tawhid al-Uluhiyyah wa Tawhid al-Uluhiyyah mutadamminun bi Tawhid al-Rububiyyah, right? Tawhid al-Rububiyyah yastalzimu bi Tawhid al-Uluhiyyah. The moment you affirm the existence and the lordship of Allah, then it becomes incumbent upon you. Yastalzimu Tawhid al-Uluhiyyah. You don't have anyone to worship other than Allah. You don't have the right to give the worship of Allah to anything other than Allah. Alright? Then they said Tawhid al-Uluhiyyah. But the Tawhid of what? Of Uluhiyyah as well. When you look at it, okay, conversely, Mutadamminu the Tawhid al-Rububiyyah. It is not possible for you to say that you are worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without having first, okay, affirming his lordship. It is not the case that you would affirm the lordship of Allah, that yes, of course, Allah he does this, he does this, he does this, but you will not worship him. The moment you can affirm his lordship, then he is the only one that is worthy of worship. None is worthy of worship besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a very, very important qaida. Okay, it is an important foundational principle, which is Tawhid al-Rububiyyah yastalzimu bi Tawhid al-Uluhiyyah wa Tawhid al-Uluhiyyah mutadamminun bi Tawhid al-Rububiyyah. Now, putting all this together, all right, all these aforementioned authorities as well as the explanation that we've given above, it is safe to draw two fundamental conclusions, all right? And the first of which is that Tawhid is the greatest command which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has enjoined upon mankind, right? Now, there is a particular ayah in the Quran which is known al-musamma bi ayah hukuk al-ashr, ayah hukuk al-ashr. Okay, the ayah with 10 rights. Okay, when you check that particular ayah very well, you realize 10 rights which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has embedded in it. These are some of the supporting authorities which I want to use, to amplify and to make it known to us that Tawhid is very, very important. In this particular ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with his own rights by saying, wa'abudullah wa la tushriku bihi shay'a, right? And then some other 9 rights, which are human rights. Okay, when you look at that particular ayah, you'd realize 10 rights. But what I'm trying to drive home, the point I'm trying to drive home is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with his own rights, okay, in this particular ayah by saying, wa'abudullah wa la tushriku bihi shay'a. So it began with Tawhid, all right? Other verses, okay, include the one that you find in Surah Al-Isra, وَقَدَّ رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ Allah said he has enjoined it, he has made it obligatory upon man, okay, Allah ta'budu illa hiya, that they should not worship anything other than Allah, then wabil walidaini ihsan, and they should be good to their parents. So this authorities points on to the fact that Tawhid is the greatest obligation upon man, and it is the first point of call, as well as what should be understood before anything else. It is also the foundation to start with, okay. It must be learned, okay, it must be taught, and the people should consistently be nurtured upon it. That is it. People should consistently be nurtured upon it. When you look at the story of the Prophet ﷺ, you'd realize that the messengership of the Prophet ﷺ was, the prophethood was 23 years, right? 13 out of it is spent in the city of Mecca, calling to Tawhid, calling towards Tawhid. The other 10 years was spent in Medina, where he was able to establish the Islamic government, which of course found its basis upon Tawhid itself. All right. So one thing that we have to understand is, for people to understand the rules and the regulations and the prohibitions and the injunctions of Allah, they need to first know Allah, make them understand who Allah is. Okay, that is when the laws of Allah will be easy for them to implement and to accept, right? And when you look at it very well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not. Even the injunctions of Allah never started with prohibitions of alcohol, zina, of this and that, and what have you. Having understood the first point, which is that Tawhid is the fundamental thing with which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded the mankind and jinn kind. Then the second one, of course, is the opposite. That means that the greatest prohibition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we are about to mention, is that the opposite of Tawhid must be shunned, and that is shirk. Alright, so Tawhid is the greatest command of Allah, while the greatest prohibition of Allah is shirk. Now, what is shirk? Shirk is the opposite of Tawhid. Having understood what Tawhid is, that is to single out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His lorship, in His worship, and as well as His beautiful names and attributes, right? Then the opposite of Tawhid, which is shirk, is to associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like we said, Tawhid came from wahada, yuwahidu Tawhid, okay? Then it also has its root word, that is shirk, okay? From sharaka, alright? And so for some of us, we are conversant with the Islamic finance. We have a particular mode of contract and business, which is known as musharaka, that is partnership. Musharaka is from sharika, right? So that is partnership. So shirk is also what? To associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is very, it's quite unfortunate that a lot of people do not even understand what shirk means, all right? Some people think that of course I've not worshipped other than Allah, I've not prayed for any other than Allah, I've not offered my zakat for any other than Allah, I've not offered siyam, that is fast, for any other than Allah. So then they think that that is all about shirk. No, it is more than that, all right? It is more than that. In terms of seeking help, you can commit shirk. In terms of seeking refuge, you can commit shirk. In terms of slaughtering animals, you can commit shirk. In terms of swearing, you can commit shirk. Yes, okay? Some people swear by wealth, some people swear by money, some people swear by their fathers, they swear by the grave of their their grandparents and what have you. All of these are shirk, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from it. Now, part of the ignorance that people do exhibit in this particular area is that out of ignorance, right, or maybe for some other reasons, all right, because some people say that Tawhid splits. Yes, Tawhid splits. It splits truth from falsehood. Okay, now some people, from the agenda that is best known to them, they feel like when we are talking about that, then we will not be able to achieve what we want to achieve, because we need numbers, right? And that is why they do not focus their attention on Tawhid. But some people think that the greatest crime is the crime of taking riba, of taking khamri, alcohol, and taking committing zina and stuff like that. Of course, we are not saying that all these things, we are not belittling them, okay? But out of ignorance, or out of like I said, out of some other agenda, okay, people will continue to see others fall into shirk, okay, but they focus their attention on some other things, all right? So they feel like okay, fine, we have to address moral decadence. Of course, yes, moral decadence is part of it, and that is why I said earlier that when you look at the injunction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the revelation of Al-Quran and the injunctions of Allah never started with the prohibition or the condemnation of vices, okay? Although vices, the condemnation of vices came later on, right? Having made the people understand the essence of Allah, okay, His might, His right. Then they began to understood, like, okay, fine, so if Allah tells me this, then I have to drop it. If Allah says this is prohibited, then I have to drop it, all right? So the first point of call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, the da'wah of Allah, the Quranic methodology of da'wah itself, is Tawhid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with Tawhid. Okay, for 13 years, the Prophet ﷺ kept repeating the same thing, Tawhid, Tawhid, Tawhid. Okay, so this has to be the first point of every caller of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you'd realize that this is the height of ignorance. All right, most especially if you say that you are calling towards the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you realize that people just intensify efforts on something else, okay, moral decadence, they intensify efforts on maybe marriage talks and stuff like that. Yes, it's part of it, okay, it's part of it. But the first thing, okay, because we are talking about the rectification of the soul now, inshallah we'll get to that, and we begin to realize the importance of Tawhid as the first point of call. To further underscore this, all right, further underscore the gravity, okay, of Tawhid, as well as the gravity of shirk. In one particular ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts the two together by saying that Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bih. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never forgive that partners be associated with him. وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ. But anything other than shirk, all right, maybe it is sin, no matter how sinful it is, all right. We are not saying that it is good to be sinful, okay, to steal, to and do some other vices like that. But when you put it side by side with shirk, okay, shirk is more grievous in the sight of Allah than committing other sins. Okay, وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah forgives other than shirk, whoever he desires for. And the Prophet ﷺ also said in another hadith, okay, for you to understand, okay, the gravity, I'm trying to make you understand the gravity of shirk as well as the importance of Tawhid. The Prophet ﷺ said, اجتنبوا سبع الموبقات. Okay, run, flee, okay, run, flee from 7 fatalities. You know the meaning of fatalities? No redemption. That's the meaning. No redemption. Okay, ijtanibu. In fact, Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala, when he was making a commentary upon this particular ayah, particular hadith, he said that the meaning of ijtanibu is not only for you to flee from it, okay, it means flee as well as do not near it, run from it, okay, and make sure you avoid it by all means. First and foremost, you're going to run from it, okay. After running from it, you're going to constantly avoid it. That is it. All right, so that tells you that you must be very far from them. 7. All right, the first one is what? Shirk billah, to associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is just for us to understand the gravity and the importance of learning Tawhid and understanding the harm and the evil of associating partners with Allah, which comes in so many ways that people fall into them. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given warnings, okay, warnings, severe warning to those that did not purify their hearts by way of Tawhid. All right, he has promised them torments on the day of judgment by saying in Surah Al-Fusilat, وَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ. Okay, the woe of Allah be upon the mushrik, okay, the curse of Allah be upon them. الَّذِينَ لَا يَأْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Those that do not that do not give the zakat. All right, it could be the zakatul mal, okay, the zakat of wealth, as well as zakat nafs. All right, and those that do not purify their hearts, وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. And on the day of judgment, they are those that do not believe that there is a day of reckoning. Right, so this is just the severe warning which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to them. Wail, it means the curse of Allah be upon them, to distance one from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the meaning of wail. All right. Qala Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, may Allah be pleased with the father and the son. Ibn Abbas happens to be the nephew of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, alladhina la yaquluna la ilaha illallah. Okay, he said that this particular verse is referring to those that do not say, that do not utter La ilaha illallah. Wa iya zakatun nafs. Okay, it is what? Zakatun nafs. That is the purification of the heart. All right. Wal ma'na. Al-Imam al-Baghawi, because I'm reading the tafsir of Baghawi for us now. Al-Imam Baghawi said that La yutahhiruna anfusahum min ash-shirk bit-tawhid. That is, they do not purify their souls. They do not what? They do not purify their souls min ash-shirk, from the shirk, from associating partners with Allah with Tawhid. With Tawhid. Okay, so this is the exegesis of this particular ayah that has come from the direct student of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is Abdullah ibn Abbas, and that is very, very crucial for us to understand the Quran. All right, we cannot begin to give the Quran another interpretation other than the fundamental interpretation which has been there. All right, we have to understand the Quran from the understanding of the pious predecessors. Now, I want to read something to us while commenting as well on this particular ayah. Okay, we check the book of Ibn Taymiyyah in his book Majmu' Fatawa, volume 10, page 97. He also said concerning this verse, he said that this is the Tawhid, an iman with which one purifies the heart, for it comprises negation of the right of worship and divinity for other than Allah, and affirmation of divinity and the sole right to worship Allah within the heart. So this is the reality of the statement La ilaha illallah, like Ibn Abbas said, that is, there is no deity worthy of worship besides Allah, and this is the foundation with which the hearts are purified. This is coming from Ibn Taymiyyah in his book Majmu' al-Fatawa. Let's read from his student as well, his direct student, and that is Ibn Qayyim in his book, which is known as Ighathatul Lahfan, volume 1 in page 79. He also said about the verse that the majority of the exegetes, that is those that give the tafsir of the Quran, the exegesis, the commentary of the Quran from the Salaf, okay, from the pious predecessors and those after them, all right, that are upon the path of the Salaf. That's the meaning. I've said that this verse is in reference to Tawhid. You can see again. That's meaning that there is none that has a right to be worshipped except Allah, and the Iman is the way by which the heart is purified. Iman is also known as Tawhid. Tawhid is also known as Iman, all right? And it is the foundation of purification and development. You can see that. The foundation of purification and development, all right? So if you want change, rectify your soul, and you'll get the change that you desire. So this is just the exegesis of that particular ayah, and that is why we said that Tawhid is the first point of rectification of the soul. If we really want to rectify our heart, all right, we need to focus on Tawhid and implement and have the reality of Tawhid in our lives as a people and as a nation. So having said this, it is safe to say that there is no purification other than from Tawhid, all right? There is no purification, there is no rectification of the heart, there is no rectification of the soul, there is no rectification of deeds other than from the angle of Tawhid. The reality of Tawhid in our lives will manifest in our actions, in our deeds, in our utterances, and what have you. And it is also safe to say that the threat and the evil and the danger that shirk poses towards the rectification and the purification of the heart is not something that should be overlooked, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet in the Quran, "La in ashrakta, if you commit shirk, O Muhammad, la yahbatanna amaluk, all your deeds will be spoiled. Wa la takunanna min al-khasirin, and you'll be amongst those that will be the losers and those that will be of regret, that will be filled with regrets on the day of judgment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you and I from being regretful on the day of judgment. Hada wallahu alam, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.